Hola amigos, Coach Josh Gerry here. In this week's video, I want to talk about energy from the crowd and how to properly use it. I was asked a question by a friend and colleague in pro wrestling about guys wasting the energy that the crowd gives you. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to touch on that subject. The energy that you receive from a crowd during a pro wrestling match, you can feed off of, and then you can feed it back. Of course, you have to give energy in order to get it back. Now, what I see a lot of guys doing is I see a lot of guys trying to get the crowd behind them. You know, doing these things and clapping and stomping their foot and things like that. And that is great if you can do it organically. Going like this or say, come on, that's pandering to the crowd. We want to do things organically. And one of the things that separates pro wrestlers and a worker is the ability to take detours and come up with things on the fly and react to situations. So if a crowd is giving you energy and you just lay on the mat, right? You don't give it back to them. You don't start getting up and start fighting back. Then when you really want them to come and get behind you and clap and I believe in Tinkerbell and all that stuff, they're not going to give it to you. So those tag partners standing on the outside, smacking the turnbuckle cover, trying to get the crowd behind you, you gotta use it. Because if they clap and they go, yeah, we believe in you, we believe in you, we believe in you, and you don't do anything, then eventually that crowd clap dies, and then they just kind of go, well, screw that guy. So then when you start asking for it, they're like, well, I gave it to you last time, and you didn't want to give it back. And so they won't clap. So don't waste it. Another thing that I see guys do is they'll get the crowd behind them, and the crowd will start clapping, and they'll start getting behind them. And then you hear the claps kind of die down. You have to make contact with your opponent before that clap dies. Please. That's why they're giving you the energy, is because they believe in you and they want to see you come back. Don't waste this energy, guys. Now, the longer you're in this business and the more experience you have, you'll start to pick up on those things and realize when things are happening. Now, let's say, for example, you're not ready for a hook spot or a comeback. Go ahead and feed into it anyway, right? Go ahead and you start getting up and you start maybe get off one or two shots, and then you get cut right back off, okay? The clapping, it worked. So more than likely, they'll do it later on in the match when you need it, but it's the heel's fault that it didn't work, right? So now he gets heat. You see where I'm going with this? So now when you're actually ready for your big hope or your comeback, and that crowd, it's worked before, and you start feeding off of it, and they start feeding off of you, and you keep feeding, and they keep feeding. It's this big, huge thing. But if you wasted it earlier in the match, they're not going to give it to you. And it's going to be a whole lot harder to try and get that energy back if you wasted it a couple times. And of course, obviously, the longer the match goes, the harder it is. So guys, if you don't understand how to use that crowd energy, or when the best time to try and get the crowd behind you, or how to call an audible and say, hey, the crowd's feeding it to us right now, let's go ahead and take it. Find you a place that does. There's plenty of training centers. There's a lot of tips and tricks online, guys, that'll help you. It's definitely beneficial, and it's a lot more advanced type stuff. I try to teach it a little bit in some of the seminars and camps that I do, but it is a skill that is best developed so that when you're out there and you're trying to gain experience and you're trying to gain exposure, you're also gaining fans at the same time. So in the description, or I'm sorry, in the comments below, go ahead and tell me about a time that it was wasted, or you weren't sure, or somebody called something on the fly and you just rolled with it and actually turned out to be a lot better. Guys, I'd like you to click over there, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Click over there for any videos, tips, and tricks that you might have missed. I've got links to all of my social media in the description below. Once again, I am Coach Josh Gerry, and let's just keep driving and striving.